Hi everyone, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for tuning into one of our talks today. We are a year-round digital talk series bringing you the best creative voices across film, television, and theatre, and today we're incredibly lucky to be joined by Jon Jon Briones, who's currently starring in the Netflix series Ratched. And I was really interested in your foray into this world, and because you've worked with Ryan Murphy before on a couple of projects, and so when you kind of first got the scripts or first knew a little tinkering of who this character might be, how did that really help you in terms of understanding who he was going to be as a character, knowing the worlds that Ryan Murphy creates and the types of tones and aesthetics that he brings to the screen?
Well, first, when Ryan told me what I'm playing in the show, it was quite a surprise. I didn't realize that he was going to make me a lead, one of the leads in the show. I thought I was just going to be in it. And at a after party, Emmys after party, he told me, "You're going to love what you're going to play in the new show. I wrote you a wonderful character, a brilliant doctor with lots of monologues." And that, after getting through the shock, I went, "Oh, okay, so he's going to be a very complicated, meaty, complex character." Especially when I got the script, and after reading it, my thoughts of it were reinforced, and I was so happy as well that it didn't make it to the final cut, but Sarah's character was talking to me and asks me, "Are you of Filipino descent?" And I love that line, that they acknowledge my culture and the character, and which helps me as well to relate to this character. Of course, he's a family man, but for him to be a Filipino and an immigrant made more sense in my head, and it was easier to carry him and to tell his story. And of course, Ryan's and his writing team, the work they've done with the scripts and the research they've done is just so tremendous that it was just easier for me to just delve into it and live this character.
Yeah, with that acknowledgement of his Filipino descent within that first script, kind of what specific choices did you make about the way that you played him based on that piece of information and his backstory that you then developed for yourself?
Well, first of all, I thought, okay, he's a brilliant doctor, so he believes in himself. Him being an immigrant, he has a chip on his shoulder that he needs to prove himself. He wants to make it in this world where during that time, I believe, it's designed for people like me to fail. And for him, so that his focus and his objective is just a tunnel. He has a tunnel vision when it comes to that. And that he truly believes that he can help people. I believe he's a good man. He's an honest man, but his ego gets in the way and gets him in trouble, which eventually he started to run away from, and develops the skeletons in his closet, and so things are stacked up against him, and as a lot of have seen, he's a mess.
Do you find it useful for yourself to kind of think about details such as what drove him to this specific profession, kind of what studying would have looked like for him to pursue that specific career as well, and kind of like what was his motivating factor behind stepping into this world to begin with?
I was supposed to talk to Ryan about this, but it never happened. Maybe it was by design, so that he doesn't like me to have a judgment on this character. But I built a backstory in my head, knowing that he is an immigrant. I developed a character of a father to myself, that he's also a doctor, and that he needed to prove himself to this father and to his mother, that he wanted to succeed, not just in the Philippines, but also to be better than his father, and how to do that more than, going to the United States and making it there and basically going, look at me now. So that was, he's an overachiever. He's a brilliant doctor, but he wants to be an overachiever and to be better than anyone else.
Yeah, I also love that we get that scene in one of the later episodes, kind of like looking back to the court scene when he's fighting for custody of his kid. And I thought that was such a telling thing about who he is underneath the way that we see him in the workplace all the rest of the time. And I know, specifically in television and especially in Ryan Murphy world, a lot of times you don't have all of the scripts at the beginning, but because that was such a key detail, was that information that you had at the beginning when you were beginning to prepare this character?
No, I did not. It was a surprise when I saw that one. Oh, good. So we see his family. And when I read that script, I totally got the flow of his character. He goes up and down and up and down. And that was one of his down before he went up again, to be in charge of Lucia State Hospital. And that was, I think it added to his fire, to his goal to succeed so that he can have his family back or whatever's left of that.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting and different way to work. You have such an incredible array of experience working in theatre. And in theatre, you always know what the entire character arc and the entire character journey is going to be. And, specifically mentioning not having that key detail up front, kind of how does working in television specifically and on a character like this force you to work really differently? Because I imagine that you have to make a lot of very quick decisions on your feet without all of the information that you would usually have.
I have so much respect for screen actors. I mean, I've been doing this, but not in this magnitude. And for them to piece things together without knowing what's happening and to be consistent with that, it takes a lot of reminding yourself and go, okay, what happened? Okay, we're going here, but what happened, so that you can piece things. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. What you said in theater, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So that once the curtain opens, the flow already, and you've been rehearsing it over and over again, so that opening night until closing night, what you're doing. Of course, there will be, differences every night, but for the most part, it stays the same. Screen acting is so different that you have to maintain some semblance of your character. It's hard. It's really hard, especially when you go cut and then you do it again, and then you have to find that really fresh feeling. If it's a sad moment, you have to keep doing that over and over again. And sometimes when you cut, you run out of time. They go, okay, we'll do this again tomorrow. We'll pick up tomorrow, and you have to bring it back again. And that is such a talent that I'm amazed at. For example, Finn Wittrock's character, we did the scene in episode 2 where we're meeting for the first time, and we ran out of time, and we had to stop, and we didn't film back again until 3 weeks later. And we went back to his scene, and he just, brought it back again. It was an amazing thing.
Yeah. Didn't you and Finn also have another scene, I'm not sure which one it was, that wasn't planned for the day, but all of a sudden the scheduling completely changed, and so without planning to shoot one of the scenes, you had to jump straight into it together?
That's the one. Yeah. That's the one, because we were supposed to film another scene with Sarah, but something happened. So at the last moment, they called him up. Mm-hmm. And he went. He's a beast. He is such a beast. He was like, yeah, I just read this, and now I have to memorize it and formulate what, the character there. And it was an amazing thing. It was and then of course we had to stop again and then pick up through 3 weeks later. And actually, his wife was pregnant when we first started, and when we came back to the scene, his wife gave birth. So when he came back, he was a father.
So incredible. And, you know, across the cast, you know, there's such an incredible cast and so many people actually have a lot of theater experience and are theater actors as well. Is there kind of a difference when you're working on screen with a lot of theater actors just because of the approach and the way people, you know, tend to put together a lot of details before they walk into a scene together, and kind of like, what are the unique aspects of that?
It's like you understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
You speak the same language. And and at the same time they know what you're going through, especially if you're new in this kind of, you know, thing, screen acting. It's they're supportive. It's a company. They just like what Ryan Murphy's world is. It's like a theater company because he uses the same people over and over again, and it is. Ratched is like a theater company. You know, all these theater veterans, they're there, and it's, yes, it's like we speak the same language, the way we talk about the scene and how we rehearse each scene. And especially when I'm in the scene with Vincent D'Onofrio, Cynthia Nixon, and Sarah Paulson, and we want to make the scene better and make it more dynamic. It's like being in a theater company doing a play. It's amazing.
Yeah, you know, one of the other unique aspects of television is obviously the fact that you're working with multiple directors across the show. And so it's really interesting kind of what that looks like in terms of each time a new director comes on, just understanding what their working style is, kind of what that communication style is going to look like between the two of you.
It takes a lot of trust.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the main key, because it's different people, they have different versions of how they want to do things. Of course, they observe the previous film shoots that we do with other directors, and so that there's continuity, but they have their own, you know, style. But you have to trust them that they will follow through with you know, what we started in the first, second, you know, third episodes. And also you have to trust Ryan, because Ryan, you know, puts these people together to tell a story, that he wants. And for him to pick you, to pick an actor like me, or to pick a director, you know that they will deliver. It's like, it's a compliment when he asks you to work in his world. So yeah, it's a lot of trust. And, you know, they're amazing people, from the directors, the producers, all the way down to the crew. It's a big, beautiful community.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about the worlds that he creates is the visual styling that he has to each one of his shows, and this one's no exception. You know, there's such immaculate production design. There's so many details in, you know, if you look at the set of your office, you know, the details of what's on his desk, the array of liquor that we see, the color palette. And are those really useful elements to you once you walk onto set and you're seeing all of these details? Are those things that give you more information and more layers as to who your character is?
You know, before we started, I asked what will be the reference, and I was given Vertigo and a lot of Hitchcock films. I watched Vertigo, and, you know, if you remember, it's just the colors just attacks you in a beautiful way. And I went, okay, this is, but I understand this. When I read the script, I thought my office will be this 10 by 10 space, you know, dilapidated and needs of repair. And when I got on set, I said, may I see my office? And it was this huge cavernous thing. It was bigger than my house, and the colors, and you begin to realize, okay, this is the world we're going to live in. And it's just like all his other shows. He puts his flawed characters in this beautiful world. It's like the juxtaposition, the beautiful settings makes the turmoil of the characters more poignant and more interesting. And the building itself is just dwarfing the characters, that it makes sense that the world around them that they're living in is so huge, and they have to maneuver around it.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I found so interesting in your character is he exists in this world where he has to be kind of almost the voice of calm, you know, the voice of reason. And he has this very calming presence, not just around the patients, but also for the staff that he's in charge of at the hospital. But then obviously throughout the episodes, we start to see that eradicate slowly. And so kind of what did that look like in terms of your journey and the choices that you made to gradually lead up to that point, so that when he kind of does reach that breaking point, that it doesn't feel unexpected. It feels like something that we've been working towards this entire time.
Yeah, I always picture him as dancing on the mouth of a volcano. It's he tries to so hard to be composed, because I feel like he doesn't want to show weakness, mm-hmm. because he needs to put on a facade, because he needs to put on that strength, because mm-hmm. he needs to succeed in this world. But you can see that he's trying to hide it and trying to heal himself by self-medicating. And you see that pain in him during that. And that I truly, in a weird way, love this character, and I wanted to defend him and actually take care of him, because he's such a fragile, even in this strong facade, he's so fragile that you can see hints of it when he loses it a little bit, especially in front of Ratched, because she just pushes the right buttons with him. And him to yet eventually to get to that point, you understand his whole journey, and you go, yeah, you get it. And of course, the writing is so superb that it takes you through that. Just like all the other characters, their journey towards the last episode is so interesting and beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like because within that you said the word dancing, I wanted to ask you specifically about that scene, because it was such an enjoyable release to watch him in that moment. And I was really interested in the way that you used the choreography of that, the looseness of his body, you know, the overall body language, and the way that you really tell us so much about him as a character and where he's at emotionally in that space, and kind of how you really thought about those choices.
It was like a scream to him. He's screaming through that dance. First, when I read, "Oh, we're gonna dance," and then I realized this is a manifestation of what's brewing mm-hmm. inside of him, and that whole release, and you can see his anger and his euphoria and his face while he's dancing. And of course, that was not enough, and eventually he explodes on Nurse Bucket. That I really loved that scene, and of course, we enjoyed filming it. It was a little chaotic because it involved a lot of actors, background and main actors, and so and filming it over to another take and another take. But it was so much fun, and I'm happy how it turned out.
Yeah, I also love that you've mentioned how for when he takes LSD in the show, that was something that you actually kind of dove into doing a little bit of research on what the effects would be, what it would look like. And I was interested if, there are kind of like specific differences in terms of LSD at that time period, because drugs are a chemical formula that have really changed and shifted over the years. And then also just how you thought about the effect that it would have on him and how you channeled that into your performance, because it causes a lot of looseness to the body and looseness to the muscles, but at the same time, you still have to have a very specific idea of like where that scene's going and where you're pushing things forward.
Yeah, that LSD scene was very interesting. I was asking people, how does it feel to take this? And even when people explain it to me, it was hard to understand. So I just figured there's something in him that gets a connection that gets cut, and his inhibition just lets go. But there's still that struggle to keep it together. Yeah. Because he's still a doctor, and he remembers that he's there to cure this person. And for me to see him do that to me was another information that gets at me. That whole LSD scene was it's such a it's hard to explain. It's such a magical gift to be given to me, because it's not just he is saying that I made a mistake curing this patient, but I also had a hand in destroying this patient in a very such a heightened reality. That was, I went, how am I going to play this? And then I realized, no, just let it go, because this is not real. LSD is grounds flowing like this, walls going like this, and you don't even know if what you're seeing is right, and you just go with it. And I think, but reality always sets in, and then when that reality sets in, the panic also follows, and once you sober up, which he eventually did, he realized what he's done, and that is the beginning of the skeletons.
Yeah, I also read that you had a set doctor who was giving you kind of a tutorial and talking you through before you were doing the scene where you were reattaching the limbs in the series, and was really interested in kind of why that was really powerful and useful to you to have that specific technique, despite the almost absurdity of what that scene is and the situation, to still make sure that it feels grounded and real at the same time.
Because once you know the way how they do it, it takes you out of it. You're becoming more professional, so to speak. That you do this, and then the stitches that you're doing, you become more focused, because this is what you know. Even though you're on this thing, this is familiar. This is what you do. This is how you save lives. And the doctor on set with us, we did it over and over again. We had a dummy torn limb that I had to keep doing it over and over again. Of course, when we were on set, they changed it a little bit so that because it's a heightened thing, it was not a regular forceps. It was a bigger one, and the needle was bigger, and the thread was like a rope. So it was, and then the blood was there, and stickiness, and it was so hard. It was a challenge, and which added to it, I guess. And but I just got aware. I became aware of everyone around me relying on me to get this, so we're not there until 4 o'clock in the morning. But it was a lot of fun, and my fellow actor Brandon was such a good sport. He was just lying there, and it was so much fun. It was criminal.
Was it similarly challenging in terms of the lobotomy scenes? Because I know that was also another space where you did a lot of very specific research. You kind of also had the opportunity to work on dummies. But was that kind of also a completely different ballpark once you walked onto set and you were doing it in person, especially because one of the actors playing one of the lobotomy patients was your son as well?
Yeah. Oh my God. Researching that, ignorant of me, I've heard of lobotomy, but I didn't know what was involved in that. And then I researched, and I was appalled. I couldn't believe that was a treatment. So I researched, and then our set doctor also told me, okay, this is what's going to happen. You cut this, and then so he walked me through it, and that became more by the number for me. So it took me out of going, oh my God, it was step 1, cut. Step 2, put place the drill, and that was fun. Of course, a lot of pressure, because a lot of actors were involved in that we had a lot of people watching the lobotomy. And of course, I didn't perform the lobotomy on my son, though, luckily, because I would have lost it. But they kept on replacing the dummy body with the real actor. So once the real actor is there, the doctor would say, just relax, you're gonna be fine, but be careful. It was fun.
It's always the interesting thing though, because you know that it's not a real situation, but at the same time, your body is feeling like all of these experiences as an actor are real. So was the stress of that situation really manifesting in a unique way with those scenes?
Especially when we switched to the transorbital lobotomy, the Icepick Lobotomy. And I have to, there was a dummy, of course, and then to hammer it down there. And then they had to replace the dummy with a real person. I was like, okay, it was a little, you know, but I made it.
I also wanted to ask you a little bit about the way that you work with scripts, because you've talked about how for you, one of the really important aspects of working with a script is memorization and spending a lot of time with the language and with the dialogue to really make sure that you know it inside out before you're shooting something or before you're on stage. And was just kind of curious about what that process looks like and kind of how you set about approaching that task.
Because English is my second language, I need to do it differently than everybody else. A lot of actors, they don't want to read it. They just want to, some people actually rehearse while they're putting on their makeup or learn it while they're putting on their makeup. I can't, because a lot of scripts, the sentences and the lines are written in a way that I never say, you know, in real life. So I have to keep saying it over and over again, that to make it seem like I've been saying it forever, all the time, especially as a doctor. And also because I'm a theater actor, I love to play it that way, so that when something happens in the scene, I'm not surprised. I know what to do because I know the script inside out. And that's how I prepare. I actually, when I memorize it first, and then I say it over and over again. So, but for it to just not be in my head, I do chores around the house. I make the bed, I wash the dishes, I clean the house while I'm saying it, so that it's second nature, that the lines are second nature. It works so far.
Yeah, and kind of as you look back at your experience in working on Ratched and playing this wonderful character, what are the ways in which you feel like your craft as an actor has really been enhanced and evolved as a result of it?
Just being on camera for more than one scene. In the beginning, I would book one episode in one scene as a drug dealer or a Thai terrorist. So my screen time is always very limited, and you can't even really mess up. Even if you mess up, they go, oh, that's fine. The camera's not on you anyway. So this time it's on you all the time. And it's not just one scene, it's the next scene as well. I also, for the most part, I'm the first actor. I'm in the first scene of the day all the time. So, and I'm there the whole time. It's such a, and you get used to it, and you and it becomes part of your body. It's the whole process becomes more natural, more when you know that the camera is here, and then they change it here, and then there's a moving into you. You get used to that. It becomes secondary, and also theater kicks in as well, because you learn to ignore everyone around you. It's like an audience, and you just focus on the person that you're in front with.
Yeah, well, I hope that we get the opportunity to see you in so many more leading roles in television specifically now. It's been such a pleasure watching you on the show, and thank you so much for talking with us about your work on it today.
Thank you for having me.